Attention viewers, all monsters and events pictured in this video are purely fictional. The real horror lies within the Mise En Scene. Continue at your own risk. Imagine this. You're standing in a dark room, lit only by the glow of the full moon outside, and the light from a black and white flickering television across the room. You can hear a news report broadcasting live from the television. The broadcast is frantic, unclear, and terrifying. The report headlines state, "The National Civil Defense Headquarters has established that persons who have recently died are returning to life and committing acts of murder." You've taken shelter inside of an old farmhouse with wooden halls, narrow hallways, and low ceilings. The kind of place that feels safe at first, until you realize how isolated you really are. You pick up a bucket of nails and grab a hammer and start boarding up the windows and doors. Each strike of the hammer echoes through the house, and you hope that nothing outside will hear you. But then, suddenly, you will hear a sound from below, inside of the basement. Glass shatters. "I forgot about the basement," you shout to yourself. But it might already be too late. Horror movies don't always need monsters to be terrifying. Sometimes all it takes is a room, a shadow, and nowhere to run. George A. Romero's 1968 flick, Night of the Living Dead. But what truly makes this film terrifying isn't the monsters. It's the small elements that are hidden behind each frame. The isolated farmhouse, the nails, the hammers, the fires, the TV, the grainy black and white visuals. Night of the Living Dead uses all of these elements to create mise en scene and form an atmosphere full of suspense, paranoia, confinement, and apocalypse. Instead of relying on flashy, expensive special effects, Night of the Living Dead, a low-budget film, creates its horror through mise en scene. According to David Borbwell and Christian Thompson, mise en scene is a French term and means, and I quote, "putting into the scene." This refers to anything that appears before the camera in its arrangement. This includes setting, lighting, props, and performances. In Night of the Living Dead, mise en scene is what controls the film and what transforms it into something otherworldly. First things first, let's take a look into just how exactly Romero uses mise en scene throughout the film. Let's start off by talking about one of the most iconic settings inside of the film, the farmhouse. The farmhouse is what I like to call the meat of the film. Each moment of the film, from the point it's first introduced and onward, it becomes the main setting and setup for future main events in the film. At first glance, one might see the farmhouse as a place of safety, but the truth is far from that. In fact, when Barbara and Ben each discover it, they also saw it as a safe house where they can hide from the monsters outside. However, the farmhouse later slowly starts to become both a symbol of safety and fear. First, they discover a corpse in the attic. Then, the zombies start making their way to the house and click numbers. And on top of that, they don't know the layout of the farmhouse, and they don't know where certain items or rooms are. Characters also later argue if being upstairs in the farmhouse is even safe, as it has many windows and points of entry that could easily be exploited by the monsters, and would be very difficult to keep track of. Instead of trying to hide the film's low budget, George A. Romero uses it to his advantage by heavily lowering the contrast of each shot and allowing the shadows around to dominate the frame and make objects and things only appear partially visible, making it easier to hide a zombie or something unnatural right before the viewer's eyes. The darkness also obscures facial features, making it hard to tell who's a threat and who's not, and who's dead and who's alive. To quote Borbwell David and Christian Thompson, "In artistic filmmaking, lighting is more than just illumination that permits us to see the action. Lighter and darker areas within the frame help create the overall composition of each shot and guide our attention to certain objects and actions. A brightly illuminated patch may draw our eye to a key gesture, while a shadow may conceal a detail or build up suspense about what may be present. This quote describes exactly what you see in Night of the Living Dead. Almost every scene of this film hides some sort of clever execution of props and actions of the survivors. First off, let's talk about the props. The TV, the nails, the boards, the weapons, the radio, the fire, the torches, and the cars. All of these props mean something. They all represent the survivors' last hope and desperation. Now, for the characters, the actions of each character shown on screen greatly express each character's personality and traits. Ben is constantly on the move, boarding the windows, checking each and every corner. All those actions show who Ben is as a character, a leader and a caring individual trying his best. But other characters like Harry, it's almost the complete opposite. Most of the time, he is stationary, standing in one room, and arguing with the other characters about what to do. The only time you really see him move is when he's trying to stop Ben, or someone else from doing something. Mise En Scene is the foundation of Night of the Living Dead's horror. Rather than relying on elaborate special effects, the film uses space, lighting, props, and acting to create an otherworldly atmosphere. Every visual element in the film works together to build tension, isolate the characters, and spook the audience. George A. Romero's legendary Night of the Living Dead is an example of how true horror does not need to be loud, right in your face, or flashy to be effective. All a film needs to be unsettling is a well-crafted visual atmosphere that works together with itself to create and symbolize something terrifying.